5% on tape recorders. What's going on here? Do we get to vote on this tax? I think that this whole matter has gotten completely blown out of proportion, and I agree with Senator Exxon that there is a very dubious reason for having this event. And I also agree with Senator Exxon that you shouldn't be wasting time on stuff like this, because from the beginning I have sensed that it is somebody's hobby project. Now, I've done a number of interviews on television. People keep saying, can't you take a few steps in their direction? Can't you sympathize? Can't you empathize? I do more than that at this point. I've got an idea for a way to stop all this stuff and a way to give parents what they really want, which is information, accurate information as to what is inside the album, without providing a stigma for the musicians who have played on the album, or the people who sing it, or the people who wrote it. And I think that if you listen carefully to this idea, that it might just get by all the constitutional problems and everything else as far as I'm concerned. I have no objection to having all of the lyrics placed on the album routinely all the time. But there is a little problem. Record companies do not own the right automatically to take these lyrics because they're owned by publishing companies. So just as all the rest of the P.M.R.C. proposals would cost money, this would cost money too, because the record companies would need, they shouldn't be forced to bear the cost of the extra expenditure to the publisher to print those lyrics. If you consider that the public needs to be warned about the contents of the records, what better way than to let them see exactly what the songs say? That way you don't have to put any kind of subjective rating on the record. You don't have to call it R, X, D, A, anything. You can read it for yourself. But in order for it to work properly, the lyrics should be on a uniform kind of a sheet. Maybe even the government could print those sheets. And maybe it should even be paid for by the government if the government is interested in making sure that people have consumer information in this regard. And you also have to realize that if a person buys the record and takes it out of the store, once it's out of the store, you can't return it if you read the lyrics at home and decide that little Johnny is not supposed to have it. I think that that should at least be considered, and the idea of imposing these ratings on live concerts, on the albums, asking record companies to reevaluate or drop or violate contracts that they already have with artists should be thrown out. And that's it all. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zappa. You understand that the previous witnesses were not asking for legislation, and I don't know, I can't speak for Senator Hollings, but I think that the prevailing view here is that nobody's asking for legislation. The question is just focusing on what a lot of people perceive to be a problem, and you've indicated that you at least understand that there is another point of view.
Yeah, I do
and
understand.
That there are people who think that, you know, parents should have some knowledge of what goes into their home.
All along, my objection has been with the tactics used by these people in order to achieve the goal. I just think that the tactics have been really bad. And the whole premise of their proposal, they were badly advised in terms of record business law, they were badly advised in terms of practicality, or they would have known that certain things don't work mechanically with what they suggested.
Senator Gore.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I found your statement very interesting, and let me say, although I disagree with some of the statements that you make and have made on other occasions, I have been a fan of your music, believe it or not, and I respect you as a true original and a tremendously talented musician. Your suggestion on printing the lyrics on the album is a very interesting one, because the P.M.R.C. at one point said they would propose either a rating or warning, or printing all the lyrics on the album, and the record companies came back and said that they didn't want to do that. But I think an awful lot of people agree with your suggestion that one easy way to solve this problem for parents would be to put the actual words there, so that parents could see them. In fact, the National Association of Broadcasters made exactly the same request of the record company. So I think your suggestion is an intriguing one and might really be a solution for the problem.
Well, you just have to understand that it does cost money, because you can't expect publishers to automatically give up that right, which is a money-earning right for them. Somebody's going to have to reimburse the publishers. The record industry is going to, without trying to mess up the album jacket art and impose that lyrics only be printed on the back, it should be a sheet of paper that is slipped inside the shrink wrap, that when you take it out, you can still have a complete album package. So there's going to be some extra cost for printing it, but as long as people realize that for this kind of consumer safety, you're going to spend some money, and as long as you can find a way to pay for it, I think that would be the best way to let people know.
Well, you know, I don't disagree with that at all, and the separate sheet would also solve the problem with the cassettes as well, because you don't have the space for words on the cassette packs, and
well, that would have to be a little accordion fold then.
Yeah, it was something like that, and or just fold it. But a very large percentage of the albums now sold are sold in cassette form. I've listened to you a number of times on this issue, and I guess the question that I really want to get from you is, or the statement that I want to get from you is on whether or not you feel that the concern is legitimate, because occasionally you feel very strongly about your position. I understand that. Very articulate and forceful. But occasionally you give the impression that you think parents are just silly to be concerned at all.
That's not an accurate impression of...
Okay, well, please clarify it then.
First of all, I think it is the parents' concern. It is not the government's concern.
Yeah, they agree with you on that.
Well, that doesn't come across in the way they have been speaking. The whole drift that I've gotten, based on the media blitz that has attended the P.M.R.C. and its rise to infamy, is that they have a special plan, and it has smelled like legislation up until now. There are too many things that look like hidden agendas involved with this, and I'm a parent. I've got 4 children. 2 of them are here. I want them to grow up in a country where they can think what they want to think, be what they want to be, and not what somebody's wife or somebody in government makes them be. I don't want to have that, and I don't think you do either.
Okay, but now you're back on you're back on the other issue, and let me just say briefly on that they say repeatedly, no legislation, no regulation, no government action. Certainly sounded pretty clear to me, and
okay.
as far as a hidden agenda, you know, I don't see one, hear one, or know of one.
Okay, let me tell you why I've drawn these conclusions. First of all, they may say we are not interested in legislation, but there are others who do, and because of their project, bad things have happened in this country, in the industry. I believe there is actually some liability. Look at this. You have a situation where even if you go for the lyric printed thing in the record, because of the tendency among Americans to be copycats, one guy commits a murder, you get a copycat murder, now you got copycat censors. You've got a very bad situation in San Antonio, Texas right now, where they're trying to pass P.M.R.C. type individual ratings and attach them to live concerts, with the mayor down there trying to make a national reputation by putting San Antonio on the map as the first city in the United States to have these regulations, against the suggestion of the city attorney who says, I don't think this is constitutional, but you know, there's this fervor to get in and do even more. And the other thing, that if the P.M.R.C. starts off talking about lyrics, but when they take it over into other realms, when they start talking about the videos, in fact, you misspoke yourself at the beginning in your introduction when you were talking about the music does this, the music does that. There is a distinct difference between those notes and the chords and the bass line and the rhythm that supports the words and the lyrics. I don't know whether you really are talking about controlling the type of music that kids hear. So just specifically, we're talking about lyrics. It began with lyrics, but even looking at the P.M.R.C. fundraising letter in the last paragraph at the bottom of the page, it starts looking like it's branching into other areas when it says, we realize that this material has pervaded other aspects of society, and it's like, what, you're going to fix it all for me?
No, I think what they're, I think they're acknowledging some of the statements by some of